Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Aurora. This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. Today is March 13th already, and this is the Lesson 12, Level 1 recording for the semester that has begun in 2019. So we started pretty much in January, and we are more than halfway through the class. Today is a little bit unusual. I usually do a Facebook Live intro at about 1:45 before we hop on board here at 2 p.m., and I say, these are the topics of what we're going to be talking about today. However, there is some massive internet disruption today, so I was not able to do that. So I simply did a little bit of preparation here before the class, and I'll tell you what the plan is for today. So last week, I spent all of our class time on all level 1 stuff because it was a jam-packed session, and I knew that I would not be able to get through all of it, and I would use up all my time and would not even be able to get to level 2. So this week, what I'm going to do is level 1 is still level 1. That coincides with lesson 12. So we're still on track with that. And the second hour, lesson 2, is going to be combined. Some of lesson 11 from last week and some of lesson 12 from this week. And the two things really mesh together a lot. So we'll be all caught up and everything like that. So if you are following along with the recorded homework lessons on Teachable, you will know what this particular webinar refers to. What if you want to, I know you know what I'm talking about. My words, my brain doesn't always connect to my mouth. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, so topic for level 1 is sun gazing, and I'm bringing my notes a little bit closer here, and I got my pictures all prepared for me now. So we've been in this class building up to the actual practice of performing the flying rainbow lasagna, the verb. So this has involved a lot of music theory, a lot of stuff that is, I say music theory because this is like playing your musical instrument. So we had to learn like, what are notes? What is the musical staff? It's basically learning what are the chakras or energy centers of your body? What is the language of color, shape, line, form, and vibration? That is the proportional language that organizes these colors, that organizes sound waves. It's cymatics, it's harmonics. All of that is food for the intellect. All of that is like basic muscle building in preparation for the actual activity of learning how to do the flying rainbow lasagna. And we've also learned a lot about your DNA anatomy and structure, and also DNA behavior. And I said, you're not ready for this melody yet last week because you have to learn some weird jazz chords. So some of those weird chords include learning the Merkaba, star tetrahedron shape. Hear this over here, star tetrahedron shape. That is like a energetic immune system and also vehicle for interdimensional transport. You learned that last week, and now we're learning the other critical jazz chord that you need, which is sun gazing, in order to be able to do flying rainbow lasagna. So first of all, this is how experts do star travel. We do not need to have a metal clink spaceship. And when I talk about the materials of level 2, I'll speak more about that. Basically, when you sun gaze, what you're doing is bypassing the need for physical food. Here, where's some physical food? So I have, oh, this is beautiful. My juice has settled a little bit. The green stuff in there is fresh, raw cannabis, okay? So I take fresh cannabis leaves out of my garden. I put them through the juicer, and I got other fruit juices and stuff in here. This is solidified sunlight. Let's all drink some solidified sunlight. Cheers. Cheers to life. Fantastic. We all drink, we all eat. It's solidified light. So now I have to get a little bit into understanding, changing, blah, blah, blah. Organize my thoughts. Before we were all in this format of this embodied physical type of human body, in what is known as the mythological time of Atlantis, the sophisticated antediluvian world, before the fall of consciousness, before the fall from grace, before the genetic degradation, we all ate nothing but pure light. Light came in through this aperture, and I've spoken extensively in this class about what this piece of your energetic anatomy is. It's like a tendril that can reach out. It's your attention. It reaches out, attenuate, and it tastes whatever it touches upon. And you can use this in order to touch upon the sun. That's what our bodies were originally designed to do. And we were designed to be like clean running solar engines as opposed to steam engines. After the genetic degradation and fall of consciousness, we got a new software program, and just using this as an opportunity to say, I am not a transhumanist at all. I am totally a humanist. I'm like all about doing it naturally, and everything about me I do naturally. I don't wear makeup. Now I'm all natural, guys. And I encourage you also to be all natural, literally because our bodies are miraculous. We don't need any extra stuff. We don't need any training wheels in order to get to these highest levels of achievement. And so I'm not a transhumanist. And when I talk about something being a software program, I'm always using air quotes. So I'm just trying to find analogies that I can bring that, you know, in this time and place, everybody understands about computers. So we've got software, which is like thought structure. And then we've got hardware, which is like neurological structure and the way your organs and your plumbing actually fits together. And one big emphasis, big takeaway from today's class is changing your software program, your thought structure, changes your hardware system, your physicality of how your genes and your physical body is structured together. So, you know, when we come, so for that's the science word is epigenetics, EPI, epigenetics, the word genetics, and it means the code that rules the code. And that's not something that I made up. That's now accepted as part of 21st century science, the idea that our thoughts and feelings have a huge impact on the movement and accessibility of different aspects of our genetic code. So that if you are happy and calm and peaceful, then you have a certain genetic structure. And if you're like super angry and agitated and stressed out, then you have a different genetic structure. So this is understanding that our thoughts and feelings and inner mental and emotional state have a direct impact on the expression of our biology in terms of health and vitality or disease and death. All right. I want to get to, so when we first came here, most of us came here as little infants. I'm a walk-in, I came here in adulthood. And yet I still have to learn these same lessons about how to eat in coming here. So when little infants first come here, first of all, you've been in your mommy's tummy and all the food has been brought to you by like the waiter on the tray, your umbilical cord. You didn't have to mash anything up with your mouth, with your moving mouth parts and put it into your tummy. You didn't have digestive probiotic microbes in your tummy. All of your food came directly into your bloodstream, right? So when each baby is first born, it has to be taught that food is a thing, that food goes in here, and your alimentary tract has to be inoculated with beneficial microbes. Because if you don't have those microbes, your body itself does not have the capacity to absorb nutrients. So in terms of our individual digestion in this particular multicellular form, you can't just be like, I'm gonna mash up a bunch of plant parts and then stick them in my tummy and then expect that my body will be able to absorb nutrients from there. No, you need an intermediary, and the intermediary is this process of digestion or fermentation that happens on the microbial level. So human breast milk, the very first stuff that comes out that the little baby drinks from its mother right after it enters into the world, is like an inoculation of the baby's digestive tract so that it has the beneficial bacteria that it needs in order to even begin to digest food. And then there's a lot of other stuff too that science doesn't necessarily recognize this, but midwifery and general common sense of like women helping women know this. Babies need to be hugged and like held and rocked and soothed in order to learn how to eat. You can't just be like, you know, throw food at a baby. You can't just be like, here's your bottle, or like, you know, put food down its gullet and expect its tummy to start working. That's not how it works. You have to, so the process of, you know, nursing a baby and rocking it and burping it, you have to teach it. You have to teach peristalsis. You have to teach the food, like how do you go down? How do you swallow it? Keeping that food in there. And then of course, you know, like babies spend a significant portion of the early part of their life learning how to poop stuff out too. That's like a pinnacle of achievement. You have to learn how to do this if you want to be here on this planet. If you want to be part of the symphony of life, let's play some music. You want to play life music? Turn on my piano before I do it. Play life music. That's the music of life. You have to learn to eat food. So I learned these lessons in adulthood, came into this body at age 27. Clearly it was not an infant body. And yet I, coming from where I was, tried to just eat nothing but pure light. And I didn't understand, like, how come the body did not feel good and energetic and was not large and, whatever, stout, and it was instead small and weak. And so I had to learn, like, oh, physical food is necessary. So we were originally light eaters, and the way that this worked, I'm trying to organize my thoughts here. My dog is coming in. She's probably going to jump on up. Come on up, girl. Come on up. we have right now in our physical bodies a vestigial or atrophied light circulation system. So I want to emphasize, like, first of all, when you came here, you didn't come here with the program of learning to eat physical food. You had to learn that. And second of all, we all eat light with our present format, even not knowing that you need to be a light eater, through the skin of our epidermis. And it's necessary to generate a particular vitamin that maintains bone health, that is vitamin D. So you guys are already all light eaters. And I want to make a connection. I did this in the lesson I'm drinking about the pineal gland. Pineal gland that is associated with this chakra or energy center of your body. That is where you attenuate from. Your pineal gland emits 3 types of hormones: DMT, fun stuff, doorway, portal between worlds, melanin, which regulates waking and sleeping circadian rhythm cycles, and melatonin, which is the skin chemical that it creates a filter so that not too much light comes in your skin. So we, for our general health and vitality and maintenance of our physical body, need to be exposed to sunlight. We need to eat light. You need to eat light through your skin in order to, vitamin D has a huge impact on your bones, bone structure, and maintaining your bone structure. And P.S., your bones are made out of calcium, which all comes from a dead star. So your body, what you have in your body right now, like your flesh comes from the living star that is right now outside. I'm pointing out my window right there. It's an amazing generator of light and consciousness, and it's falling on us right now. I got my muscles from eating plants and animals that came from the living star. But my bones are made out of calcium that came out of a supernova explosion that was from the end of a life cycle of a star a long time ago. And we have to connect right now to the living star in order to maintain the deceased star that is part of our body tissue that gives us our basic structure. And vitamin D is also essential in parts of maintaining immunity against disease. Okay, so big emphasis and takeaway: you're all already light eaters, even though a lot of people are vitamin D deficient. And that is because a significant portion of the population lives above these lines of latitude. We're not all equatorial, is what I'm trying to say. Many of us live in the north. I have lovely friends in Canada and Alaska. Hello, I don't know if Tracy's tuned in right now. My lovely friends in Alaska, and everybody's bundled up to the eyeballs a significant portion of the year. So you don't necessarily get skin exposure all the time to be able to eat sunlight. So we have a vestigial circulatory system in our body that is supposed to bring light from the outer periphery to the deep interior. So first I'll think of it like this. If you didn't have a circulatory system that was effective for like your blood circulatory system, the only parts of your body that would be oxygenated are the parts that are, visibly exposed to the environment. So you have deep inner crevices that would be like, we're dying, we don't get any oxygen, we can't get any oxygen in here. So you have to have your blood supply that are these little wonderful carriers with their little suitcases full of oxygen that go around your body and bring oxygen to the inside. So right now, in the way our bodies have been formatted with this genetic squashing, the outside of our body gets exposed to plenty of light, but we don't necessarily get that light transmitted into the deep interior to all the other tissues and organs and everything that needs to be fed with it. And that vestigial, when I say vestigial, what I'm trying to say is like an atrophied system, something that once was in use and healthy, like a muscle, but that hasn't been used for a very long time. So it has gone into a state of dormancy. But it can be awakened again. And the way that you awaken it, it has everything to do with your attention. Remember, this is like a tendril that you can send, that you can use to touch on something else. So you can use this tendril to, I'm touching on the sun and I'm connecting to the sun and I'm drawing that energy into me. And then remember, this can be a telescope looking outward at something out there. It can be a microscope. You can turn this tendril inward and you can then emit this light that you're eating into the areas of your body that it needs to be. So this is about like becoming a healthy infant with your light body. Just like your physical body had to learn how to eat and had to learn how to digest and poop it out, we need to learn, like infants, how to have a light body. How do you eat and how do you circulate that light throughout your whole entire light body or system so that it feeds everything? And another big emphasis here is that we're in transition. Like I eat physical food. I'm very open about that. I'm not completely, I go to the grocery store is what I'm trying to say. I'd save a lot of money if I didn't have to eat physical food. I eat a lot. I know I'm slender, but I eat a lot because doing lasagna requires a lot of energy. So that is a big emphasis here. In order to do this, this is like an athletic achievement. It's like doing backflips with your DNA. Like, man, you got to eat some good food. You got to eat some, very nourishing physical food that is full of light and consciousness. And you also got to do sun gazing. And that's like being a hybrid vehicle, one of these, cars that's an energy efficient car. It can run on gasoline. That's like food, puff, puff, puff. Food goes in, puff, puff, puff. Food comes out and exhaust emission comes out. And then it also can go on, clean fuel, like electricity or solar power or something like that. That's what my body is like right now. And I also love and accept that I'm in the process of transitioning, just like our whole entire planet is in the process of transitioning. So I say this in order to say, please do not be unduly hard on yourself or expect too much. Don't be like, okay, like Aurora, that's it. I'm going to save like hundreds of dollars every month. I'm going to just become a light eater and instantaneously transform and everything. Like I love the attitude. I love the passion. However, please don't be too much of a hard ass. It takes time in order to develop. And it's not just about your personal willpower. Like, I want to do this. I want to do this. That is wonderful. It's also about the entire band, because the process of becoming food eaters and eating physicality transformed our whole entire environment. Here are some of the ways that our transition into being physical food eaters changed our environment. So we didn't used to eat plants or animals. And you can also understand this in terms of my ideas of dietary restrictions, vegetarianism or veganism. From my viewpoint, if you're eating another living object, like you're eating a living object, we eat it because it contains life force energy. That's why we eat it. There's no getting around that. In our squashed genetic format, we need to have an intermediary. So the intermediary might be a chloroplast. That's a plant. Here's a leaf of a plant. It's got these little cells that are miraculous. They're literally miraculous creations that were made specifically to take a photon, which is a non-physical or semi-physical energetic particle, and transform it into something physical. There's like a translation device, the physical, non-physical light into physical light that we can actually eat. So on this journey towards becoming a light eater, one of the big practices that each one of us can do is every time you eat a physical food, remind yourself mentally, I am eating solidified light, and get into the practice of doing that. And when you're going shopping, like you're looking at like, the produce section, you look at all the apples lined up or all the pineapples lined up. You're like, wow, look at all of that solidified light. Or you're looking at a bunch of seeds or peanut butter or whatever. You are looking at ground up solidified light. And the light is not just the light that science recognizes, which of course has like an energy potential and also an infrared, like a heat potential. It's also consciousness, that what is coming from the sun and the stars in terms of these little particles, these are photons, are feelers. These are little tiny specks of consciousness. And the chloroplast catches that little tiny speck of consciousness and through a magical process develops it into a stored sugar or a starch that takes that energy, puts it into like a molecular format that then we or a plant or an animal can eat. And then we can put that stored up light energy into us. But what we are actually supposed to be able to do is use the tendril of our attention to connect directly to the sun and abrogate the necessity of any kind of intermediary. Cut out the middleman, buy direct from the wholesaler. That's the sun. The sun is the wholesaler. And when you do that, then there is no like waylaying or taking something off its path of what it's supposed to be doing. So the sophisticated antediluvian world, when we were in there and we were light eaters, and when the culture here on Earth, everybody ate pure light, that means that there were no domesticated animals. There were no domesticated plants. Plants and animals were organisms that were allowed to exist and express their genes and breed and transform according to their own inner directive. And there's a great disrespect that has been undertaken to both plants and animals in terms of human agriculture. And human agriculture literally comes from a bunch of malevolent extraterrestrials, the guys that squashed us. They're like, oops, we're going to take away, not oops, but oops, we're going to take away your capacity to eat pure light. And then oops, and so that, guys don't starve and be like, horribly degraded, we're going to teach you the gift of agriculture. So now you can have a steady food supply. So the idea of agriculture is that you have taken through selective breeding the natural habits and behaviors of plants and said, like, plant one wants to breed with plant two, like, oh, we're in love, we're in love, we're in love. But human agriculture says, no, you don't get to breed with your true love. Like, you have to breed with, this paintbrush instead, and then you will create a different form. Like, if you looked at the non-domesticated form of corn, it doesn't look like a fat, juicy thing you can sink your teeth into. It's like this little tiny skinny thing. Or a carrot's a really good example. The non-domesticated form of a carrot root is called Queen Anne's lace. It's a wild carrot. It grows quite extensively throughout North America, so you might find it growing in a meadow near you. The flower itself looks like about the size of my hand, or maybe a little smaller, maybe this big, and it looks like a lacy white flower. And if you dig up the root, it's like skinnier than my pinky, and it's not juicy and kind of orangey or whatever. It's like white and very woody. Like, if you try to chew that up, you're like, like it's a lot of chewing in order to try to get that down. So you can understand why, like, that's not necessarily nutritionally accessible. Like, you can't chew on a wooden root all the time. You would ruin your teeth. And also, it doesn't have as many nutrients in it. So the wild carrot was taken, and elements of it that we like, the juiciness of its root and the color of its root and the amount of starches and sugars that it has, we selectively bred. So that means that plant didn't get to be its true self. So just as humanity was taken away, tilted askew, here's my little thing. Chakras were tilted askew from our path of least likelihood, our ascended mastery path, who and what we are on a profound inner level. We then also put out of tune other organisms on this planet. All of our plants that are domesticated plants, and our animals that are domesticated animals. So, whatever, a cow is a domesticated animal. Dogs. Where's my little dog? She's somewhere else. Don't tell her. Dogs were originally bred for food. Yes, that's why they're called chow chows in China. Yes, they bred them for like protection and food. Like, there was man's best friend and man's best meal. This was done on purpose. And, all the other domesticated animals, it means that those animals didn't get a chance to be like, I'm in love with my true wolfish partner. We had to make them be like, you're going to marry the paintbrush instead and turn into a nice miniature chihuahua, or whatever. That is convenient and easy for me to handle in my agricultural enclosure. You guys totally understand what I'm talking about. We were transformed as a species, and then we went around transforming many other species. So be kind, understand yourself and your own acceptance of your own journey, because as we are changing, it means that the plant kingdom is changing, the animal kingdom is changing, even the microbial realm. If we eat nothing but pure light, then that means we don't have to be in this partnership anymore of having a bunch. Do you guys know that you have trillions of microbial cells in your tummy that are not you? That means that they don't have the same DNA as you. They're not playing the same song, the same DNA music as you. And they don't respond to your thoughts, but sometimes they might if they're friends. That's the difference between a beneficial microbe and a pathogen. The pathogen, if you think like, hey, like, don't do this, it's like, screw you, I'm going to do it anyway. But the beneficial microbes, if you say, hey, don't eat that, eat this, they're like, yes, we will be good. We will stay within the pathways. And that's why we don't kill them. They stay in us, symbiotically or whatever. When we return to being nothing but pure light eaters, we don't need to have all of that 5 pounds of beneficial bacteria in our tummies helping us to digest our food anymore. And this is big because I'm saying learning to sun gaze and eat light directly is an essential part of your education to becoming a real star traveler, an expert, a virtuoso, where not only do you not need a clank mental spaceship to fly around the vast reaches of space-time and consciousness, but also you do not grind up all of your food into like a little toothpaste tube, a little squeezy bottle, and you're going to squeeze it, while you're like drinking some liquefied strawberries or something while you're floating around in your metal spaceship or in your metallic space skin wearing a space diaper. Like, that is not the way we're supposed to travel through space. So first, what is needed is to Develop the inner capacity to eat pure light so that you do not need plants as the intermediary. Plants are rooted to the planet. Their roots go into the planet. And, if you grow a plant in a container, it does not grow as effectively as if you put it into the actual ground with no barrier of its connection, because plants actually make a taproot, and the taproot has like an energetic connection that goes all the way down into the soil, through the mantle, to the crust of the earth. Like, it is like plants get rooted to the planet upon which you grow them. And the idea that you're like going to make some kind of a giant space ark, a metal Noah's Ark, and you're going to fly to your next place where you're going to live, and you're going to have like some kind of potato farm in space as you're flying along. Like, the idea is kind of laughable, but I don't want you to think that I'm condescending to you, but it's like, that's not how you're supposed to do it. You're not supposed to have to grow your potatoes in space while you're flying to your next place. You're supposed to be able to have access to stellar light, sunlight, and starlight, and that is what you eat all the time while you are flying. And not that you don't have a spaceship, you are the spaceship. You don't have a metal spaceship, you have you. Your consciousness is a spaceship. So all of this that we're learning about sun gazing, these ideas are transforming the behavior of your physicality. They are transforming the function and the behavior of your physicality. Learning new ideas, new software transforms your physical body, transforms your hardware. So I thank you to everyone who has tuned in and who is exposing themselves on this broadcast, who are exposing themselves on this broadcast to these ideas. Sorry about my grammar. Because it's transformative. Just to learn that this is possible is transformative. So here are some examples also, because the rational mind has like barriers of skepticism that might make it hard for one to accept the possibilities of what the human body can actually do. So there have been many humans that reached this level of achievement, of attainment, of being able to eat nothing but pure light. But not all of them are famous, and really the journey towards getting to this level of inner self-cultivation is a journey that is not an ego-based journey. So when you become a light eater, you've gone through that level of personal refinement where you don't feel the need to be like, I'm the biggest light eater in the world, I'm the best, like, the super ego type of stuff that we expect from someone who's like an artist or a musician or whatever, that goes around saying like, I'm the best, listen to my stuff. So yeah, they might not have written a book about a lot of people who achieved this level of attainment. There are a couple of people that you can look into. One is a Bavarian mystic that's kind of around Germany, and she was alive during the 1940s. Her name is Therese von Neumann, and she was a stigmatic. She bled from her hands on Fridays in like recognition of, the connection to the sufferings of the Roman story of the, Jesus crucifixion. And that's not what I promote to everyone, but I'm telling you about her. So just making a distinction. This is this person's life and her belief system. So she was very much devoted in her heart to the story of Christ and the story of Jesus Christ and the story of the crucifixion. And she felt that she suffered those pains too. And she would spend extensive parts of her day making these flower altars as a devotional exercise to her conception of what Jesus Christ is. And she also didn't eat physical food for the last 25 years of her life. She only ate one little Eucharist a day. And Eucharist is like a little tiny rice cracker. I think it probably has 1 calorie in it. There's no way in the world, in terms of objective materialism, that one little tiny wafer would be enough to support, a healthy human being of whatever, over 100 pounds for 25 years. So the critical integument was that she had this profound belief that the little cracker was not just a stupid little cracker, that it was blessed and impregnated with a non-physical energy, that to her, she defined it according to her belief system as this love of Jesus Christ. And each one of us can develop our own software program, our own individuated belief system about what you need to ingest and what it is filled with and what it is charged with. There are different systems of doing this. So I do sun gazing and I do light eating. Some people define themselves as breatharians, where they are not necessarily ingesting light, as I'll describe to you and I'll show you in the practice of coming in through my physical aperture here. They breathe. They are breathing in prana or life force energy. And the whole point that I'm bringing to you here is that there's no right, there's wrong. There's no right, there's no wrong. There is only what works. And each one of us gets to cobble together our own individual belief system, just like you have to figure out your own posture when you walk through the world. You have to figure out, how do I not fall over to this side and not fall over to this side? Like, you figure out how to balance and use your arms and legs when you're walking around. Each one of us needs to figure out our own individual thought structure that allows us to reconnect to the source of all of the nutrition, consciousness, love, and energy that is like our real parent. You know, when you are being nursed by your mother, you're connecting to your earthly parent, and you're receiving nourishment from that parent. And then in terms of growing up into adulthood, our parents feed us. If you have a good childhood, parents feed you, and they make food and make sure that you have enough nutrition to be able to build your body. Reconnecting to the sun and the stars gives us the nutrition we need to build our light body, or our non-physical energy bodies. And right now we're like little baby infants, and I don't even know how to swallow. That's it. You got to learn how to swallow. I will teach you that today. And then the more that we eat light, the more that we accrete light. And accreting light, that's like growing muscle mass. You're like a little kid growing up, and you got to eat food, eat your veggies, and grow up big and strong. So we need to sun gaze and ingest these levels of pure consciousness in order to grow up big and strong. And one of the reasons for this is physical food. Physical food is great. Hey, this comes from my garden. It's full of light. It's organic. It's unprocessed. It is vital. It's full of life force energy. And let's say that there's 10% of the life force energy that I need for my day and for my lasagna. Lasagna is expensive. This costs a lot to be able to do. It's like running a marathon is expensive energetically. So I need a lot more than just this. Even if I eat 12 sticks of butter a day, if I eat the most nutrient dense food that I possibly can a day, that I can fit in my stomach, like your stomach is this big, how much food can you fit in there? How much ice cream, how much butter can you possibly fit in your stomach? Even if you did that, it's still not enough energy to do some of these psychic acrobatics, like doing the flying rainbow lasagna. So this is very energetically expensive. And in order to be able to perform these acrobatics, you got to get lots and lots of energy inside of you. So sun gazing is the way you do it. And when you sun gaze, I call it, you can put energy into your energetic savings account. You can think of it that way, or you can think of it like building muscles. And when you build muscles, they stay on your skeleton. They are part of your body. They don't go away. So every time you do this practice, you're feeding yourself, and it stays with you. It's not like it floats away in some way, and it accumulates. And this is literally our job of being here in the physical realm. We came into the physical realm not to earn a bunch of money and get your 401k to get set up for your retirement plan. You came into the physical body literally in order to grow your non-physical or light body, or body of pure energy, or body of pure timelines and possibilities and probabilities that is made out of pure consciousness. So wait, let me just drink a little bit. I'm going to tell you exactly how you do. Don't worry, I'll tell you exact how-tos on this lesson. Now, let me go through a few questions first before I do getting into pictures, because I don't want to roll past too fast. Okay, wait. Joel says, I have noticed that in my meditation, the longer I meditate, the more light accumulates inside my mind's eye. Nice. Sometimes in certain colors or shapes. Is this considered gathering light? Yes, I would say so. You are, so here, good segue into, you can eat light even if it's a cloudy day. So I live in a very sunny environment, and I love it, and that's why I'm here. However, sometimes we have a cloudy day when the sun is, there's an intermediary between myself and the sun. Sometimes it's nighttime. Sometimes I need more light, the sun has already gone down. You can still connect to the sun, even if it's on the other side of the world, being daylight on the other side, because it is through this tendril of attention. So you can connect with the sun, even if it's not in line of sight. Like, it's not like a satellite where you have to be in line of sight. You can connect over the horizon and be able to connect with it anywhere. And that's essential. It's like the next level. So the first level of sun gazing is just connecting with the physical sun when the sun is sunny. And then the next level is being able to connect with it even on a non-physical level. And that's really connecting on like the esoteric aspect of just your energy center, which is where we're really getting the food from. Pedro says, if you don't like the idea of eating another living being, think that you are incorporating light from another source. That is exactly right. So if you lived in a world without refrigeration, and or if you lived in a climate where it freezes in the wintertime, like, far northern climates, you cannot be a vegetarian. So the indigenous people of, the ancient times, they ate animals. Like, this is just what you do in order to live. And you also drink animal milk because the animals are like stored up sunshine. They ate the grass in the warm season, and then they are a bunch of walking mussels that you can then eat in the cold season. And then in the springtime, this greenery comes out again. You can eat the greenery again. So yeah, there are a lot of things. I know there's a lot of cultural things about eating plants versus eating animals, and that's an intellectual exercise that a lot of people are exploring in this time and place. But if we're just looking at it in terms of food availability and why we develop these practices, you can understand, like, in the early springtime, it's often called the starving time because, vegetarian animals like deer, there's hardly anything to eat out there. In the, where I lived in upstate New York, everything is frozen. They're eating like the bark off of trees. So being able to eat animals was an essential part of being able to survive even in the wintertime. And people that didn't have access to equatorial sunshine through their skin survived by eating the animal's liver, where some of this vitamin D gets stored up, and the fatty organs of the animal's body stored up sunlight in fatty organs of the body. So understanding that, I hope that everyone can get beyond their anthropocentrism of this time, the human-centered viewpoint of the value system of this current time and place, to understand why our bodies developed in the need for being able to eat both plants and animals. Pedro's saying, dang, you're right. Here in Mexico, there's a rare dog without hair that the Aztecs did eat. Yes, it is called the techichi. Isn't that funny? It kind of sounds a lot like Chiqui, and she's derived from those ancient Aztec animals, and she's got the hairless belly. But don't worry, we will not eat Chiqui. All right. Pedro says, if you can eat solid light, then you can eat liquid light and gaseous light. Very good point. I like the way that you're thinking. I want to get into the actual practice of sun gazing and how we actually do it. So let me get to some pictures in order to share this with you. Oh my goodness. Let me get this down. And let me show you this. Hope you can see all my pictures properly, and this, and also make my face bigger. Good. And I don't know if I can move this. Well, whatever, I can't see the chat right now. So first we're just going to start off with this over here. This is your body that is made of time, your body that is made of bundles of possibilities and probabilities. These are chakras, or energy centers of your body, and they all have the same shape of this torus or double torus. And this little yellow sculpture is a three-dimensional version of the double torus. And in this drawing over here, it's actually like a etch board, a scratch board, etching to the left. What you really see is a simplification where I just have half of a chakra, like one hourglass shape of each of the various chakras or energy centers of the body. Someone is calling me right now. It's not a good time. Sorry that just interrupted us. Hold on a minute. So how do we perform sun gazing? Good, because I said last week, hey, this is part of how do you do the flying rainbow lasagna? So part of my daily practice is doing sun gazing. There's a lot of like teachings from the Far East, and they talk about doing it at sunrise or at sunset, and there's reasons for that. So first of all, let me get into this. I promote the idea of doing what I call safe sun gazing, where I do not encourage people to stare at the disk of the physical sun with their physical eyes, and that is not how I do it. And I still perform my energetic maneuvers quite well. So I want you to know you do not have to stare with your physical eyes, because there are some stories, I think, from yogi masters and Aikido masters of how long with unprotected vision they could stare directly at the sun. And yes, you will develop that capacity, but I don't want you to be in your ego and say, I want to have 5 seconds, 20 seconds, 25 seconds, 25 minutes. Please do not think of it in that way. Please accept yourself like a little tiny person that is developing and growing muscle mass and everything. And at a certain, or like getting tan. Like, think about it like you've spent the entire winter inside bundled up with no exposure to the sun, like in Alaska or whatever. And now the sun is just starting to come out for the springtime for the first time. You take off all of your sweaters and you go outside. Like, should you go to Hawaii and you stay out in the sun for like 18 hours a day? No. What would happen if you did that? You know what would happen? You would get a horrible, horrible sunburn. So smart people after they're coming out of the wintertime, they go outside for 15 minutes. And then the next day they go outside again for 20 minutes. And then you gradually expose yourself to the sun. And I'm telling you, I have to do this. Like, I have a body where if I'm not out in the sun, my protective layers go away, and then you become more vulnerable. And then when I need to get more sunlight again, like, oh, I have to build up my protective layers again. And I find that that is also true of my eyesight. You know, being able to eat sunlight through my eyes, that in springtime coming out of the winter, just looking at the sun a little bit makes my eyes water and my eyes squint. And I'm like, oh, it's so bright. It's so much. It's so much. In the middle of the summer, I'm like, oh, I feel like all of that energy can go into my eyes. It's not overwhelming. It doesn't seem excessively bright at all. So please, again, don't be in your ego. Don't create artificial goalposts that you feel like you have to conform to an artificial expectation of performance, and simply allow your body to develop. Best to sun gaze at sunset and sunrise, because when you do that, the sun is filtered. Let's go to annotation. Is it there? It's not going to annotate for me. No, not going to do it. The sun is filtered through many long layers of atmosphere, as opposed to if it is directly overhead, and then it is filtered through fewer layers of atmosphere. So because I advocate for safe sun gazing, my hat is over there. I almost always wear a hat. Everybody in town, when they see me walking my little dog every place, they know I have a big wide brimmed hat. So also, I protect my body just in general from excessive sun exposure, and I encourage all of you to do so as well. I don't advocate for artificial sunblock like the nano titanium dioxide pigments. It's not good because it does get into your bloodstream, and it also gets into the places that you swim. However, if you need to, if you're really fair, you can do zinc oxide, which is slightly better. But what I do is jojoba oil, which has a natural SPF, and you can put other essential oils in there like frankincense, or wild carrot seed oil is a very good one that helps to do natural SPF. And yeah, I put that on the vulnerable parts of my body if I'm going to be outside. And I wear a hat, and also I'm wearing corrective lenses for my eyes right now, and they have a UV coating. So I don't wear sunglasses, but my contact lenses have a UV coating on there, so I'm not getting excessive UV. So I want you to know, like, I am sensible about how I treat my body, and I want everyone else to be sensible about how you treat your body too, because our bodies are vulnerable. And you don't want to be like, thinking that your body is able to be indestructible when it is still susceptible. And we're still on that journey towards becoming, completely indestructible diamond bodies. So love your process, accept yourself, and protect yourself as you're going. I usually use a little hat, and I do sun gaze during the middle of the day. But I'll have my hat kind of like over my eyes, and I also have a big awning on my backyard. So I'll be sitting in the shade under the awning, or sit underneath the tree. That's a beautiful way to get filtered light. In the same way that a tree filters the sunlight and grows an apple for you, then you eat the apple and you get the light. You can physically sit under the tree and look through the leaves at the sun and the protective energy field of the tree. It's kind of like this. If you imagine the sun is like, like the energy center, like the power supply, the power station, and you have your little toaster, whatever, your little appliance. You can't plug your little appliance directly into the energy center. It would fry your circuits. So what you need to do, like in our neighborhood, we have all these transformers that slow down the energy as it's coming to our little individual house, so that when you plug into the wall, it's the right amount, it's the right intensity of energy, so it will not fry your electronics. Same exact thing with your mind and your body and your neurology. If you plug directly into the sun and the stars without any of these intervening transformers, stepping the energy down, prepare to fry your circuits. Like that David Bowie song, the Starman in the Sky, but he thinks he'd blow your mind. That's what would happen. Your mind would get blown. So we don't want that. So this is just like, you don't want to fry yourself by going to Hawaii with no base tan. You want to gradually expose yourself to this level of intensity. And the intensity is not just of the physical light coming to your body, it's of ideas. Because as you eat more light, you grow your light body, you grow your body of consciousness, you grow your body of ideas. And that is also a sensory organ. Photons are feelers. They are the sensory organ of a much larger being within which you find yourself. The more of the sensory organs that you eat, the more sensitive you become. You become a being that has a light body, that is a sensory organ for the sun, and you can sense light. You can sense awareness. You can sense consciousness. You can sense the time field directly. So this is why we're doing this work. How do you actually do this work? I sit the way that this figure sits. And I want to annotate, thank you. Oh my goodness. The gods of technology have smiled upon me and allowed the annotation window to come down. Oh my goodness, guys. You have no idea how challenging it is sometimes. Let's draw this over here. Like this is the sun, right? And these are these wonderful rays of organized photons coming out of the sun. And these represent possibilities and probabilities in terms of time, timelines, and also consciousness. So in order for me to sun gaze, I sit the way that this figure is sitting with my legs crossed comfortably. And I do a Merkaba. You can do it. You don't have to. This is really a different practice than Merkaba. This has to do with now this area of your energetic anatomy. You get a different color so you can actually see it better. I'm using blue, but you can't see that blue. This one right here, right at the center of your head. Well, I'm making a big giant blue dot right there. That is where that tendril of attention emanates from. And again, I've described it as something similar to like an elephant's trunk or a long, flexible feeler that goes outward from the center of your forehead. And it's like a tunnel. And you can create this feeler, this tunnel that reaches all the way up to the sun. And you can connect to any star, but the sun is the nearest broadcaster of intelligence in our immediate vicinity. And we are also calibrated to eat from this sun. So you have a recipe that's in your body, and the food that comes from this sun is like perfect for the recipe of your body. So I sit comfortably like that. One major aspect of doing this practice is I place my tip of my tongue on the roof of my mouth. And I would encourage each one of you to find the exact place that feels comfortable to you. Is it totally forward, right by your teeth? Is it further backward towards your soft palate? Figure out what works for you. But what that does is creates a complete circuit. So what you're doing with your body is creating a complete circuit, like a loop like this. And then you're also going to create a complete circuit between your body and the sun, just like you're making a battery. You're getting a circuit. So you send out this tendril to the sun, and then you also have this tendril kind of coming back to you from the sun. And this is how you make the circuit. And this tastes, whatever you're touching on, you taste and you become. So as I'm touching the sun, I'm tasting it and I'm becoming it. So let me change my color here. So this red energy is coming into me through this blue aperture. And to contrast, sun gazing is different than sunbathing. I love to sunbathe. I put on my bikini, I put a nice little towel outside on the back grass, and I just lay out there and I relax. And it feels good, it goes on my skin. But that is not the same practice as this. This is not necessarily where you're just relaxed or limp. My spine is erect, and I'm engaging my muscles of consciousness too, like I'm using my awareness. And I'm using my intention. So I focus on the sun, but I often either have my hat blocking out the physical sun, or my eyes are closed or squinted, or if I'm inside, I'll use like the edge of the window. Like I block out the physicality of the sun so that it's not too much for my eyes. But what matters is that my inner eye connects with the sun. And again, I began my practice by doing this only in the daytime and only on sunny days. And as I grew more light muscles, I found that I could connect even when it wasn't a sunny day, even when the sun was on the other side of the planet. And, I could get the nutrition that I needed anytime. But that's because I had to grow my anatomy more. So the more you grow your anatomy, the easier this gets to be done. And how do I do it? I breathe in. I breathe in as I'm focusing my inner eye on the sun and feeling that light coming into me. Let me go back to I'll just stay here in the little, because I want to show you, like on our faces, when you breathe in, you have sinuses that are up here, up above your eyebrows, and that's directly related to this area of your energetic anatomy. I breathe in the sunlight, and I also feel these sinuses here underneath my eyes, filling with light. And then I feel it going down my throat. So now I'll go back to drawing on this little drawing. I feel it going down my throat, just like some kind of a liquid pudding or something like that, down into my belly, even deeper than my tummy, deeper than my stomach, and down into it's called in the Far East, your hara or your ara. This is like the cauldron of your belly. Yeah, and I kind of sit like with my legs crossed like that because it makes your legs kind of like a bowl. And I breathe in a couple of times because I breathe in and I'm like, my bowl is a little bit full. And then I have to breathe in again. And I remember I'm keeping my tongue on the top of my mouth here as I'm breathing in. I'm feeling that growing, and I feel like I'm filling up with sunlight with each breath, and I feel it come up to my heart this high, and then I breathe in further. I feel it come up to my throat this high, and then I breathe in even further, and then I feel myself filled all the way up to here. That's like the brim of my coffee cup is almost completely full, and then I got to show you how I do this. Well, I'll show you, I'll show you look on the thumbnail here. So I breathe in one more time as my coffee cup gets totally full, and as I'm doing that, I tilt my head back and I send that energy out through the top of my head where my ponytail emerges, up, out through the top of my head, and then back in through the back of my head. I hope you can see what I'm doing here. And then back out through the front of my head to connect with the sun. So now let me draw it for you. And as I'm doing that, I tilt my head up, and as I tilt my head up, there's a cascade of energy down the back of my body and down the front of my body. So now let me draw it for you. So the energy comes up to here, the level of like my eyeballs. I'm up to my eyeballs, and then it's like up to the brim of your coffee cup. With the final in-breath, I feel that energy coming out through the top of my head, through my crown chakra, where my ponytail emerges, out through the back of my head, in here, big arrow in the back of my head, and then back out through the front. You can see I have another arrow going over here. So it makes a shape very similar to the Egyptian Ankh. Here I'm drawing a very hastily drawn Ankh shape. This is like a symbol of life from ancient Egypt. So I call this sometimes doing an Ankh, or doing like a loop-de-loop with the sun. And when I do that, that is like creating a complete circuit. And I feel like that is like reaching completion. Like I ate the meal in various different bites, tasty increments, and then I connected with the sun, and then like, boom, the meal is over. And this doesn't have to take that long. It can take a minute, it can take 5 minutes. You can do the cycle again. If you're like, I'm still hungry, like order another course or order another plate from the waiter. Like, I don't know if that ever happens to you. You eat something in a restaurant, you're like, still hungry, let's get another small plate. So yeah, you can do that. There's no rules against that. And also, I encourage everyone to do what feels right for your own body. There's no, like, it has to be 4 breaths, it has to be 5 breaths, it has to be 17 breaths. There's nothing like that. You do it according to how it is comfortable to you. Let me now get into, can you see this image over here? No, let me get this. Okay, I have to do stop share and then change images. Hold on a second. Thank you for bearing with me and being patient while I do the techno stuff. So here's also a nice, fun, brief aside that I wanted to find this image that I'm sharing with you here. The reason why it has a big triangle in the middle is because that's like the play symbol. I couldn't find it in my files. And Tin Man, who is a lovely student of this class, well, first Pedro was like, do the Merkaba for the class and we'll help you to find where, so I could take a screenshot. So we did the Merkaba together. And then Tin Man said, oh, it's at minute 29 in the video. So I scrolled there super fast and I took a screenshot. So apologies that there's the little play symbol in the middle, but this is at the very, very end of lesson 12 for level 1. And this is a little sketch that I did to show you what I see with my inner vision, with my inner eye, what it looks like when I'm on target. So in terms of doing sun gazing, I see this with my inner eye when I am effectively aligned with the light source that I am eating and ingesting. So yeah, it is kind of like you have to get tuned in, not to be too graphic or whatever, but kind of like a baby finding the bottle, finding the nipple. You have to find the connection to your parent to get the food. So it's like a little bit questioning, like, is it there? Is it there? Is it there? You kind of like find it. And I have my tongue on the roof of my mouth, and I know that I am tuned in or I'm on target when I see this. So you can kind of see it looks like a central focal point that is violet, and the violet is a very profound, bright violet. And then the other colors of the rainbow radiate outward towards the red end of the spectrum. So that you know that you are on target when you see that. And then you begin your breathing and circulation exercises. So you can also do this relatively informally. Like you can do it very formally, like, okay, I have to sit, I have to, do this. I have to connect. I have to put my tongue here or whatever. At this point, I've been doing it for many, many years. And the sunlight comes into my bedroom at this time of year exactly. The sun is rising. My head is on the pillow. It reaches my head right while I'm on the pillow. So I don't necessarily get up and sit with my spine erect and do everything. I'm maybe a little bit relaxed in the way I do it, but I still do it. So I want you to know that there's a way to do it in a relaxed way too. And you know that you're doing it right when you will actually feel a substance going down your throat. So a couple of times it felt to me like the consistency of a pudding, maybe, like a coconut pudding or something like that, and even had kind of a sweet floral kind of sense to me. So another thing that I wanted to say to everyone is, as we're doing this sun gazing, we are accreting light. We are growing the muscles. We're developing and gestating our light body. And as you do that, your senses come online. So your inner sight comes online. Your inner auditory hearing comes online. Your feeling comes online. You grow more of your body and you feel your senses more from your body. And then the last sense that you develop as your light body comes online is smell taste. So at first, it's like you're eating food that you don't even necessarily have the sensory apparatus to taste of what the food tastes like. But I want you to know, it's not like eating some flavorless pablum. It really, when you get good at doing this, it's as satisfying as eating your favorite food. And this is a big takeaway, because I don't want anyone to think oh, I really want fried chicken, but I have to eat pure sunlight in order to be pure. I don't want you to think that way, because eating sunlight can be as wonderful as eating fried chicken. Because another thing that you can do as you're on this journey of transitioning from being a food eater to being a light eater is, whenever you eat physical food, remember that it's solidified light that you're eating, and do a mental recording or transmission or live stream of what that experience is like. So it's this fried chicken is so good. I'm going to totally focus on the sensation of eating it. I'm going to remember or create a neurological recording of what that sensation is like. And then when we become beings that eat nothing but idea structures, you will have that recipe in your repertoire of what you have eaten when you had actual tongue and taste buds. And you can mentally transmit, you can feed someone else. This is when we get to be really virtuoso. So I'm telling you about the future, but you get to become a virtuoso, and that's one of the best things. You become a chef of the mind, and you can put together wonderful flavor and aromatic profiles and wonderful drinks that you then mentally send to other people. So, and again, I've said I'm not a vegan, I'm not a vegetarian, I eat everything. And I eat healthy stuff. Okay. I'm very big on that. I don't usually eat fried chicken. I have some friends from back on the East Coast, and they're totally foodies, and they would have these wonderful holiday parties. And they made this fried chicken one time there. That was they soaked it in buttermilk. They did the perfect breading of the crust. They fried it in lard. I found the package in the garbage. I'm this is why your fried chicken is so good, because you fried it in lard. They're like, yes, you found our secret. And as I was eating it, I was it's the best piece of fried chicken I've ever eaten my whole entire life. I want to remember this. My taste buds remember it. My body feeling remembers it. And yeah, so when you are eating the sunlight, and you do it right, it can taste like coconut pudding. It can taste like fried chicken. It tastes like whatever is your wonderful, nourishing, good stuff. Robert Fenton, first of all, your new name, I haven't seen you tuned in before, so welcome. Thank you for being here. And Robert makes a lovely comment, says that they see a large violet circle when they do sun gazing. So you're doing it right. You know that you are on target and you're in alignment. Let me just make sure that I got, okay, so what can you expect in terms of results? As you do sun gazing, the capacity to do it gets easier, just like growing any muscle. So the first time that you go out for a walk, doing an exercise program, you're well, my feet are kind of tired, my back is kind of tired, and you go home and you feel sore. And then the next day, you're my butt is so sore. But if you do it consistently, then you can do it easily without, the wear and tear and the feelings of tiredness and everything. Same thing with sun gazing. The more that you do it, the easier that it gets to be. And then if you don't do it, just like doing your physical exercises, your body feels a little bit bereft. You're kind of well, I'm not getting all the stuff that I usually get in terms of my energy and vitality. So it can be very challenging to continue the practice if you live someplace that is not equatorial. I'm in Southern California, which is not equatorial, but we do get enough good sunlight for me pretty much the whole entire year. I'm able to feed my light body, and that's why I live here. So if you live someplace northern, I have a little crystal. This is what I used to live in Northern California, and I have a Herkimer diamond that I would put out in the sunlight on sunny days that were very rare, and I would charge it up with wonderful, good sunlight. And then when I needed to do my flying rainbow lasagna, if I hadn't had real, live, fresh sunlight on that day, I would put my crystal in my mouth and actually have that as the connection between my tongue and my palate, and get the energy that I stored up on a sunny day. So you can think of doing things like that and use crystals that are safe to put in your mouth, nothing that would poison you or anything like that. And yeah, I already talked to you about how sun gazing is essential it's a skill that you have to develop in order to be able to leave the planet without clank, clank metal technology. So this is like we are returning to our true form, and then we reach adulthood, and then you don't have to hang around. The planet is what we are associated with because we need plants, planet and plants. And when we do this, then we become free. Like free means unencumbered, like we can have more places to go. And also I've talked about this too, the energetic firewall of why, experts do star travel with no clank clank metal spaceship. And if you need technology to be able to make it around the cosmos, then you ain't doing it right. Part of the reason for that is, let's say you and I, in our present state, put on our space suits and our space diapers and get into a clank clank spaceship, we zoom off to another planet. And then we get out and we're like, we're teeming with microbes. Like it's all over the surface of your body. It's in all of your pores. It's in your digestive tract. There is no way to be sterilized enough so that you're not going to infect or infest another planet or other organisms. And there's also, if you sterilized yourself of all of your microbiome, you would not be able to be alive. You wouldn't be able to digest your food. And also you would develop horrible skin infections because as you don't have protective organisms, you would just have pathogens. So none of that would work. It's not cool for you to fly to another planet and spew your microbes there because it might be poisonous or harmful to the beings that already live there. In exactly the same way that it's not cool for a bunch of Northern European conquistadors to get into their wooden boats and come across the ocean to, North America and South America and be like, here, have a bunch of smallpox. Like, we think that is horrific. We think that's terrible and very unethical. And it's not just a question of might makes right, and you can do it. You do it because you want to do it, because you can do it, because nothing is stopping you. Like, no, there are actual ethical concerns about whether that is appropriate to do. And so there are these energetic firewalls that basically mean if you're so unconscious or so self-serving that you don't know that this is inappropriate, you should not be able to do this. Give me a minute, guys. And I'm also reading some comments. Let me just drink a little bit here. Pedro says, I had to learn fast to sun gaze indoors because I live in a desert zone. In the summer here, you can't last long in direct light. Yeah, Pedro is in Mexico, and so you're even closer to the equator than I am, so I can definitely relate to you. In the summertime here where I am, it can be 100 or 120 degrees in the sun. I don't go in the physical sun. I sit in an awning. I sit, in the shade, and I have a hat. And I don't go outside at noon. I go like early in the day or late in the day. So be kind. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah, Pedro's not that far south. He's not that far close to the equator. Hold on a sec. Sorry, I'm drinking so much. He says, I sun gaze. I found huge benefit energetically, like meditating. You just feel supercharged afterwards. So I agree, and I have the similar experience. On days when it is sunny and beautiful out and I do my sun gazing, that's where I get all of my ideas. It's where I get ideas for what I'm going to speak about in class today. It's where I get ideas for what I'm going to paint with my paintings, or even sometimes, I get an idea for something I want to share on social media. That literally all comes from having a conversation with the sun and the stars. So this practice of sun gazing to me, my experience, it's not merely an abstraction. Like if you do an abstract exercise, you're like, I'm lifting this weight, I'm doing this. It's not like that. To me, it's more like cosmic lovemaking. It's an aspect of dancing in partnership, or like having a parent that feeds me with ideas. And, if you are nursing, if you have a mom and you're breastfeeding and you're nursing your baby, your breast milk creates the exact nutrition profile that your little baby needs. It's amazing how the body does that. So same thing with the sun. When I sun gaze, the sun, I'm like a little baby getting my nourishment from my parent, and the sun is like, oh, you need this idea. Oh, you need this amount of nutrition. Oh, you need to go in this direction. So it might be the idea of like, oh, I need to explore a particular musician. Sometimes I need to feed my ears. Sometimes I need to try a new project. Sometimes I need to do whatever. I get those ideas from the sun. So question from Chloe, she says, what about grounded on the earth? I have direct sunrise, sunset off my balcony, but I'm not on the soil. Great question. Is that okay? Okay, so to answer that question, but still not done with your comment, thank you for that, because I should have mentioned in my little scratchboard picture, up here, I'm connecting to the sun, but where I sit, the base of my spine is connecting to the planet, and that's the battery. That's the complete circuit that I'm making. So let's go to my image so that you can see what I'm talking about here. This I should have said, as I'm connecting this over here to the sun up there, this aspect down here, you cannot see these colors that I'm using. I'm so sorry. Here, this aspect of self down here is connecting all the way down into the planet, just like a plant's taproot. And so here's the sun up here, and what you end up doing is making this whole wonderful energetic bridge. That is a connection that's like a battery connection between you and the earth and the sun. Perfect. So thank you so much for kind of reminding me that I need to clarify that. So if you have a balcony or whatever, where I'm sitting on my in my bed in the morning, I'm not touching the exact surface of the soil where I grow my tomatoes. I'm several layers up with all sorts of wood and stuff in between there. That's okay. Just like I can connect with the sun through my attention, even if the sun is on the other side of the planet, I can connect with my root chakra, my taproot, to the planet, even if I'm not sitting with my butt directly on the soil. So let's say you're 1 or 2 stories up, or in an apartment building, or at the top of the Empire State Building. You can still ground to the earth, even from the top of the Empire State Building, but you have to use your, envisionment, not your physicality. But that's what this is all about. Building your non-physical body, your body of pure consciousness. So yes, it is totally okay to sun gaze on a balcony or whatever, and all of these practices, they're meant to be like happy and nourishing and fulfilling, not like some grim death march where you have like, if you don't do it the wrong way, you're going to die. Like, no, it's not like that at all. So don't. But I always tell people, like, you don't have to stare directly at the sun, because I don't want you to have macular degeneration, because our eyes are photosensitive, and if you give them too much light, it's just like getting a sunburn. You will get burned. Chloe says leaving is annoying because she has a child. She'd rather not have to go down to the street. Totally. That's what I'm trying to say. The sun is like our parent that loves us. Just like, let's say you're nursing a little baby. You want to have like a little cushion. You have a little blanket. You want to have a little nappy. You want to have everything set up all nice and comfy. Like, you don't want to have to do it in an uncomfortable setup where like things are at weird angles and everything. Do it in a way that is comfortable. That's how parents love you and want you to live. Pedro says, I remember when I first started in the class, I was worried that having tinted windows would diminish the benefits of sun gazing. So I would say it really depends. If you live someplace really sunny and equatorial, you probably already get plenty of sun. I would not worry if your car has tinted windows or whatever. It's probably good to protect yourself from overexposure. But like when I used to live in upstate New York, which was far, high northern latitudes, I would get as much sunlight as I possibly could in the bright summertime days. And then usually November to March, it's like a significant portion of the year. Not only is it cold and you're bundled up all the time, but gray, rainy days and snowy days. So I didn't get as much. So I was pretty much getting like half of the nutrition that I needed to be able to do all of my practices. So yeah, having daily access to sunlight is really, really essential for that. So I've gotten through all of the everythings that I wanted to get through for level 1. I just wanted to make sure that I got through all the questions and everything like that. And now I'll move on to level 2. And the level 2 stuff relates a lot to what we're talking about with level 1, because level 2 is basically all about when we're eating this light and consciousness from the sun. It's our parent, and we're also connecting to this whole grid of consciousness. What is that grid, and who are we in relation to that grid? So this is getting more into like abstractions. Yes, so just making sure if there's any more questions on this topic, and make sure I got everything. Got everything. One more. Good. No, good. Okay, fantastic. Thank you. I'm going to end this and move on to level 2. Thank you so much.